Hours after back-to-back strikes and evacuation warnings to the Palestinians taking refuge in Rafah by the IDF, Hamas announced that they have accepted an Egyptian-Qatari ceasefire proposal. After months of war, the acceptance comes as a ray of hope for millions of people stuck in the crossfire. Palestinians were on the streets celebrating this move. They look at it as an end to their misery.
Frankly, we did not believe the news. The joy is unnatural. I do not know how to describe my feeling. It is an extraordinary joy. Allah willing, it will go well.
But how has Israel responded to this? Israel says they will continue operations in Gaza despite Hamas's acceptance of the ceasefire proposal announcement. The proposal did not meet the core demands of Israel, and hence the Rafah offensive is still on the cards.
We examine every answer and reply very seriously, and find every possibility regarding the negotiations for the return of the hostages to their homes as a central task as quickly as possible. And at the same time, we continue our operations in the Gaza Strip, and will continue to do so.
The people of Israel, however, expressed a different sentiment from the government. Israelis in Tel Aviv took to the streets on Monday evening, calling on their government to accept a proposed deal for the return of the hostages held in Gaza.
We are here to tell our government that we won't stop until they bring everybody home now. We need to bring them home in a deal and end all the suffering and agony that the hostages in Gaza are suffering. Now, before it's too late.
Hamas's acceptance of the ceasefire proposal could be more than what meets the eye. Is the ceasefire acceptance aimed at stopping the war and bringing peace? Or to avert the dreadful Rafah invasion? Israel, along with its allies, are studying Hamas's ceasefire response closely.
We are at a critical stage right now. We got a response from Hamas. Now, Director Burns is working through that, trying to assess it, working with the Israelis. I mean, my goodness, folks, I don't know that it gets any more sensitive than right now. And the worst thing that we can do is start speculating about what's in it.
This morning I was on the call between the President and Prime Minister Netanyahu. We are closely tracking what is happening on the ground.
Meanwhile, the situation on the ground in Rafah remains tense and mired with confusion. After the Israeli army ordered some 100,000 Palestinians on Monday to begin evacuating from the southern city of Rafah in Gaza, signaling that a long-promised ground invasion there could be imminent. The looming operation in Rafah has raised global alarm, and Israelis' closest allies have warned against it.
Of course we do. We've made quite clear our position on Rafah for some time, which is that we cannot support an operation in Rafah as it is currently envisioned. We have made clear, the Secretary made this clear in his conversations with Prime Minister Netanyahu and other members of the Israeli government last week, that we have not seen a humanitarian plan that is credible and that is implementable. And we believe a military operation in Rafah right now would dramatically increase the suffering of the Palestinian people, would lead to an increase in loss of civilian life.
People started leaving Rafah with their belongings loaded onto vehicles and donkey carts to start their trip out of the area. Many were filled with concern and had no idea where they should go next. There is no safety. There is no safety at all. We live at the mercy of God. The situation is difficult and there is no money. You can't even work for people. There is nothing. Even the coachman felt so sorry for me. They should stop the war. Take us out of here. Take us to another country. There is no life here. We can't bear this anymore. Israel has described Rafah as the last significant Hamas stronghold after some 7 months of war, and has repeatedly said the invasion is necessary to defeat the Islamic militant group, which unleashed the current conflict with an attack on Israel on October 7th. In Rafah, people received flyers Monday morning in Arabic, detailing which neighborhood blocks needed to leave, and said that aid services would be provided in other cities. Palestinians in Rafah said people gathered to discuss their options after receiving the flyers. Israel's army said on the social platform X it would act with extreme force against militants and urged the population to evacuate immediately for their safety.
They threw leaflets at us. The Jews started throwing missiles at us from the plane. We left and fled with our children. There is no place for us to go. Wherever you go, there is no safety. People don't fear for themselves. They fear for their children.
About 1.4 million Palestinians, more than half of Gaza's population, are jammed into Rafah and its surroundings. Most of them fled their homes elsewhere in the territory to escape Israel's onslaught, and now face another wrenching move or the danger of staying under a new assault. They live in densely packed tent camps, overflowing UN shelters or crowded apartments, and are dependent on international aid for food, with sanitation systems and medical facilities infrastructure crippled.